do is to extend government to the level that it needs to be extended to. One of my biggest concerns about government today is that it's essentially out of touch with people in the real world. They talk to each other, we talk to each other, and there's very little communication between the inside the Beltway folks, either in Washington or Springfield, and the people who live in Main Street, USA. And I quite frankly think that's the biggest problem that we have. We don't have the degree of communication, we don't have the responsiveness, we don't have the accountability that is required, I think, to do an effective job, which is one of the very many reasons why there's about a 9% approval rating in Congress, probably not a very much higher rated opinion among the in the state legislature, and that's unfortunate. So starting about, well, I mean, many years ago, certainly over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, this is probably, Randy, you can help me with the addition, this is probably our 50th, between 50 and 100 town meeting. And what we want to do to let people know that whether it's Congressman Tim Johnson or Representative Wayne Rosenthal or Sandy Lighthizer, that we care about what you think. And if we don't come and see you, you're not going to give us an opportunity to let you know, let me know what you think. And so that's the reason I came by. I also want to introduce Scott Morano. Scott's our coordinator for this county and a good friend, and he and his family are here, and we appreciate you as well. Let me just spend like just 2 or 3 minutes talking about a few of the issues before the Congress right now, and then kind of leave it up to your questions that I might be able to fill in today. We've just finished the first year of the 112th Congress. We've dealt with issues ranging from our national debt and our budget and our appropriations to our involvement around the world in Afghanistan, Iraq, and otherwise, to farm policy, agricultural policy, to regulatory excess, to the whole effort to try to bring jobs and business climate that's more friendly than what it is now in the United States and arguably the state of Illinois. Because there is an impasse, and there is, in the Congress, the Senate controlled by President Reed, presidency, of course, President Obama, and Speaker Boehner in the House, there's oftentimes a division in terms of the direction we're headed. But I do believe that there is hope in the sense that I think the majority of Americans believe that we can make constructive changes, we can affect change in the United States and the world, and still have meet people's needs. So those are just kind of a preliminary introduction about what we're concerned with right now and what I assume you're all concerned with as citizens. As I said, every town meeting I go to, whether you're concerned with the Farm Bill, or our involvement in Iraq, our national debt, or otherwise, you're also concerned with your own life. And you've got to have in your family, from time to time, or your friends, people who didn't get a VA claim properly adjudicated, or somebody who did a Social Security disability claim properly adjudicated. You might have an infrastructure need, or a need, or for example, the Hillsborough Hospital, which is looking to have a VA clinic expanded, or 255 and its route either through or not through, up all the way to Carrollton, Jacksonville. Those are individual needs that don't make the headlines, but they're important to you. And as I've said repeatedly, if they're important to you, they're important to us. And that's where Randy and Dennis and really Michael and James, in a different sense, are so involved. They want to make sure that they do what they can to be responsive to your needs, your individual concerns. So you make sure as time goes along that you let us know what we can do to be responsive to. Just conclude by saying thank you. You're good citizens for being here. You got at least 2 Illini fans. Dennis Graff, of course, back there, played for Illinois, led the Big Ten in free throwing. His only negative thought about Montgomery County is when Gibson City High School, where he averaged 35 points a game, went to the state finals. They lost by 2 points to Raven Lincolnwood in the last second shot, so he's got mixed emotions about Montgomery County. Anyway, we appreciate Dennis being with us as well. So let me just stop there and see what questions or comments you might have, and I'd be more than happy to respond to anything. And quite frankly, if the country breaks down 91-9 in the belief that Congress is out of control, they're dysfunctional, and they're ineffective, I'm part of the 91%, not the 9%. I'm not going to stand here and try to defend a United States Congress that, in my judgment, is not responsive to people and whose public policy making, together with the administration, has been less than desirable. I will tell you that I try to stand out as an individual who tries to break the mold. I call on an average of 500 to 1,000 people a week at random just to ask what I can do to be of service to them. I stop at every restaurant, every bar, every business throughout the soon-to-be 33 counties that I'll represent or have or will represent, just to find out what I can do to be helpful to them. Kenny and I went out many a day knocking on doors anywhere from Bloomington to Clinton to Monticello. I do think I could break the mold, but nonetheless, I get tarred by the same brush that the rest do, and I think a lot of that's legitimate criticism. And I want to make sure that I do what I can to be effective for you, and effective as a representative process. So, can you stop there and see what questions or thoughts you might have? Oh, I thought you could say something, Mr. McMahon.
Well, what's on my mind is, at least if you watch the news, there's so much party bickering, and of course, being the election year coming up, I know that's part of the thing, but is it that bad, the way they show it over TV?
Let me give a long answer to a short question. I'm the chairman of the Center Aisle Caucus. It's a bipartisan group of about 40 to 50 congressmen whose stated purpose is civility where you disagree and compromise where you agree. And that's actually a pretty effective group. There's a whole lot of people who believe that. But there's at least 2 or 3 problems that confront that in a negative way. First of all, you have elections, and you have that whole process and the money that goes along with it. Number 2, you have redistricting around the country that tends to make heavily Republican or heavily Democratic districts where you have to play to the base. And essentially, if you're a Republican, you're going to play to the very conservative elements. If you're a heavy Democrat district, you play to the far left. And so as a result, you don't get a lot in between. And I think the other thing, and I think you pointed this out in your question, is not the local media, but the CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS. It's not news when people are civil to each other. It's not news when people get along with each other. It's not news when you have the center outcome. You've probably never even heard about it. It is news when somebody calls someone else a liar. It is news when somebody calls somebody else a Nazi. Those are the sorts of things that make the news. And frankly, most members of Congress are not that striking. But at the end of the day, you get the extremes who control the rhetoric, and to some extent, the extremes who control the results. So, long answer to the short question is maybe not as bad as it's portrayed, but it's pretty bad.
It's frustrating.
It's frustrating to me. It's like Groundhog Day, the movie. Every two months, another shut down the government. Every 2 years, 2 months are going to happen. We're right on the brink of disaster. Every 2 months, we've got a bill that has to meet the deadline. At the end of the day, that's not good government. And I've tried to be an example of one who breaks that mold. But I'm only one person out of 435. I can't do it alone.
I think what's kind of interesting is like after 9/11, parties kind of disappeared and everybody worked together for a couple of weeks there, and then started falling back apart again. But
Exactly.
I guess you need a crisis every so often just to get everybody to work together.
Well, that's unfortunate, and frankly, there's so many issues right now that we just swept under the rug. The most classic example of what got swept under the rug is our burgeoning national debt. Since 2009, our national debt has increased over $5 trillion. $5 trillion. That's more than the combined indebtedness of the Washington through George H.W. Bush administrations combined. We borrow 43 cents of every